What is up, all you real estate loving individuals? This is episode number 9 of the Real Estate Take podcast, and I am your host, Wendell Butler. This is your go-to podcast with tons of information regarding the current real estate market, where we get various real estate professionals' current take on the different areas of real estate. For today's guest, we have Will Nork. Will Nork is a senior loan officer at First Community Mortgage. He helps make dreams come true by helping people finance their dream home. Along with being a loan officer, Will also works with Homes to Cash Now as the head acquisition manager. Homes to Cash Now is a real estate investor company which buys homes, lands, and trailers as is for cash. So let's welcome on Will Nork. Will, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Wendell. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you for coming on. I know you're super busy. You had a couple meetings today, but you got to squeeze in some time to come share some knowledge, which is good.
Yeah, of course. Anytime I can give back and talk to you, I mean, what else is there to do?
Yeah, I know. You gotta mark off your calendar. Say, no, we're doing this.
Exactly.
But all right, let's get into it. I just want to quickly, just broadly go over like who you are, just so you can tell the audience. So I just want to ask who you are, what got you into real estate, and just what is your backstory as a whole?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, I mean, I'm Will Nork. Actually, I was raised in Charlotte, North Carolina, traveled all over, lived in Boston, lived in California, Los Angeles, lived in Miami. I actually just moved back to Charlotte from Miami. And I did that just to be closer to family. I feel like the family kind of need me around. It's like when you come home for Christmas, like you kind of get like the spark notes of how everyone's doing. But this year I kind of realized like I kind of needed to be around a little bit more. So I'm back in Charlotte, happy to be back in kind of my hometown. What got me into real estate, honestly, was my grandmother. She's in hospice. So it's not a super sad story. She's just old. So my grandmother's in hospice. She had a home she was living in. We're paying rent and stuff, but it was just kind of an empty home just sitting there. And so part of hospice is they continue to, you have to pay money until essentially this person runs out of money. So part of that is you need to, like, for example, my mom bought her car. And so I ended up buying her house and renovated it and ended up flipping it. So that was kind of my first flip, was with my grandmother's home. And I realized, I'm like, hey, there's more people out there right now that have homes that either A, don't know what to do with them, don't like the renting process of getting new renters in, don't know how to do the short-term rental Airbnb stuff. So I know there's homes out there that people don't necessarily know what to do with. And so that's what kind of got me started, was flipping my grandmother's first home.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, sorry about your grandma. Let me just say that first. I mean, it's always sad having that happen, but we did turn a sad moment into a possible opportunity and then a learning experience, which set you up for, getting into real estate, which is cool. It's a good story. But can you dive a little deeper into like just your whole experience with that first flip? Like, why did it make you initially think that way to flip it instead of rent it? And what was the whole process? And can you just go into more detail about that?
Yeah, I totally can. This was, luckily for me, it was a little bit of an easier job just because I had family ties to it. I got it at a good price and there wasn't major renovations that needed to be done to it. So I kind of just did those myself, just kind of got it good to go. And then the easy part though is or the harder part usually is selling. It was easy for me because I already knew someone that wanted to buy my grandmother's home. So it's kind of an easier way to just divvy that off to them. The actual process wasn't as strenuous as maybe most first-time home buyers was. I actually have a better story of a flip that was a little bit more strenuous that maybe listeners could learn a little bit more from. And this was actually a home so as I was starting to become an acquisitionist, I was doing the cold calling. I was doing the job, right? Finding the homes. Found this home, went and looked at it. There was a tenant in there. So the landlord was like, hey, you can go there, but essentially just look at the house pretty quick and get out. So I show up, get out of the car. This crazy huge dog is like barking at me, just going nuts, screaming. I'm just like, this is a lot. Then the homeowner comes out. He's like, hey, my daughter has COVID. So I don't know if you really want to look through the house or not. So it was just kind of like an obvious thing that the tenant didn't want me to look through the house. Yeah. So I thought that was surprising. But I was like, you know what? I'll put a mask on, whatever. Like, I'm a businessman. I'll make this happen. So I looked through the house, get a quick little glance. It was a 3-1 with a basement that I didn't know there was a basement. So we ended up going through the whole process. I ended up talking to the landowners, or the landlord, hey, want to buy the home? He's like, cool. I want to sell it for less than I bought it for, so I don't have to pay income tax on it, which again, I thought that was a little bit bizarre. So I'm like, okay, so what are you thinking? He's like, I want to sell it for $50K. So $50K for a 3-1. It's in Hickory, North Carolina. And so I'm like, okay, I mean, that's a good deal for me as an investor. So I'm like, okay, so I entertain it. We send them the stuff. We go through the full process. We send them the contract. The contract goes to the lawyers. The lawyers send it to him. We get it back. All the money starts getting transferred. So then it gets down to the final walkthrough process. So we go in for the final walkthrough. At this point, the tenant had been asked to leave. He had 30 days, made it very challenging to leave, but he ended up leaving. So now the home is empty. So we're doing the final walk. So now we're walking through, and we find out now at this final walkthrough that there actually is a basement. So we go in the basement, and he's like, before we go in there, you might want to like put a mask on or something. It's kind of gnarly down. So you never really know what to expect when you see enough homes. There's kind of weird things everywhere. But long story short, we go down there, and there's about an inch thick of mold in this basement, like just all over. It was disgusting, dude. I didn't want to be down there longer than 10 seconds. This is my first home. So I'm here with my business partner. I'm thinking like, dude, I just blew this. We already have like so much into this house. Like we already have like this whole thing going. Like I'm really dropping the ball. So I'm freaking out. I'm thinking this deal's dead. We get to I tell the guy, I'm like, hey, we're just going to go back to our car, talk it over. We'll come back to you. As soon as we close the doors of the car, my partner's like, oh, dude, this is the best case scenario. I'm like, what do you mean? There's an inch of mold on the ground. Like it's disgusting. He's like, nah, dude, because we buy homes as is.
Yeah.
He's like, when things are bad, that's when you can kind of get a better deal. Right. So then we go back and talk to him. Long story short, we end up buying the house for $35K.
Yeah.
Right. We did the comps in the area. It's looking like it's going to sell for around $225. So pretty good flip there. In reality, the big thing that I learned was just because it looks bad to you doesn't mean that it's actually a bad deal. Turns out that the whole entire thing was concrete. So they just cleaned it out and there was no mold up into the house or into the walls. So it wasn't actually that big of a deal. And it looks really, really good. So that was my first flip and it was a really good return. And so, I mean, anytime you get that, you're just like, you're pretty pumped to get to the next one.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, people get scared of like the situation that you said, like walking into something that's just an absolute disaster and it's really bad. But a lot of deals are made when you buy it. So you actually want it to be kind of worse. You like want it to smell bad. You want it to like look kind of bad cosmetically. You don't want like the structure to be messed up, but like a structure replacement is a lot of money. But just cosmetic stuff like you were saying, like mold or just like maybe like cat pee everywhere because it just smells, like that stuff is disgusting for sure. Like as you walk in the house, you're probably like, ew, this is awful. But it's something that you can actually get rid of without a ton of money. Like it's just gross to get rid of. But if you can it gives you a negotiation tactic to be able to get a lot cheaper for buying the home. Like you brought it down $15,000 from the $50,000 original just because you found the mold, which it was almost to the time of closing. There's a final walkthrough. So what's the seller going to do? Is he going to say no and try to sell it again for $50,000, or is he just going to say whatever, screw it, just I'll sell it? And it seemed like you gauged him enough to see that he just wanted to sell it. Like he didn't want to make a profit on it. He just wanted it gone. It was probably giving him a major headache. So that's awesome that you did like the due diligence. And even though you walked into the mold thing and you were like, Jesus, I don't know if I want this anymore. At least your partner was there, kind of shed some expertise on it because he's probably gone through that. And he's like, no, this is great. This is actually good. Like we can negotiate more. Now, is your partner, did he do a few flips before you? Is that why he like kind of understood that scenario a little more?
Yeah, so definitely. I mean, a big thing with me is I like to have mentors. I like to have someone who's already done what I'm trying to do. So yeah, he had done a bunch of flips prior to this and has a lot of experience. And so that's what made me start to want to work with him. As I said, having a mentor will just save you. I mean, I pretty much can learn what he learned in, let's say, 5 years in one flip. It's just like, you really can learn a lot from someone who has already gone through it and made their own mistakes. So I'm really grateful to have some of the mentorship that I have in the industry.
Yeah, and like people forget that mentors are a great thing to have. I mean, if you can learn from someone without having to go through those daunting, awful mistakes yourself and kind of avoid making those mistakes when you first go through, it's great. And if you find someone that has done it and wants to actually mentor you, that's perfect. You should take that and be very appreciative of it. Some people even charge money to do mentorships, which it is what it is. I mean, if you get the right guy that it's worth it, I guess it can be worth it. It's like school. It's like you're getting school from that person. But awesome. So you ended up buying this for $35,000. How much money did you put into it to renovate it?
Yeah. So renovations, we're looking at about 60 to 80K total. Basically, so one of the renovations is a lot of people fill in like their garage port with like actual walls to add extra square footage. Mm-hmm. So they did that here. And where technically the garage door would be, they put a chimney there, a fireplace, and they didn't put the footers on correctly, so it was buckling. So we had to just knock that down, and we just pretty much filled that in. We had to cut down some trees, just open it up. We're going to paint the outside of the house, and then just the typical floors, walls, and we redid the entire kitchen. We did butcher box countertops, which looked really nice, and put like an island in the middle of the kitchen. So yeah, it looks really good, but total is looking around like 80K. pretty good return there.
Awesome. And how long is it going to take you to do, or how long did it take you?
So, I mean, it probably took 2.5 months.
Oh, that's pretty fast.
Yeah.
Pretty fast. Before you went into it, like, how was your whole process with finding a team of contractors? Did you do the subcontracting yourself, or did you hire a GC? What was your whole experience with that and your whole plan?
Yeah. So again, going back to the mentorship, I kind of already had a lot of those pieces given to me and or put forward for me. We don't touch hammers. We're not doing a whole bunch of that stuff, even though it's hard for me because I like to do that. I like to have the hands-on work, but I realize as a business person, if I'm touching a hammer, I'm not getting new deals. I'm not making the calls. I'm not doing the work. We use general contractors and kind of sub all of that out.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, it's always good to know, like, worst case, you could go in there and do stuff yourself, obviously. But I'm the same way. I mean, I used to do some renovations myself, but then I realized I make more money finding deals and being able to do the numbers on that side. Plus, it's less burnout and less stress if you kind of have someone else do it. Some people might say more stress, but as long as you have a good team underneath you that you're working with, I mean, it can go really well and be less stressful than you doing it yourself. So you put $80,000 into it with like around $80,000 and $35,000 purchase price. So probably looking around like 120 or so you're all in for, but plus holding costs and stuff. Did you use a hard money loan for this, or did you just use all cash?
We did all cash.
Awesome. Yeah. So no like real holding costs for interest and stuff, right?
Yep.
That's great. So your holding costs were really just insurance and taxes. Now you say it's going to appraise for how much as after repair?
It's looking like, ARV is looking around like 225, 230.
Awesome. And you're looking to flip it, or are you going to do like a refinance and rent it? What's your guys' plans with it?
So we're looking to flip it. We're looking to flip it. The way we kind of look at it is how long is it going to take us to make the money we would have made if we flipped it? And when you do those numbers in the area with the rents where they are, it would take close to like 10 years to make what we would make just by flipping it in 3 months. So there is times where we keep and do the rentals, but for this specific one, we're going to sell it.
Awesome. And then are you looking to take that profit and put into the next deal?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, did you always want to get into flipping? Was your plan, or were you kind of interested in renting and then you just fell into like the flipping with your family member, like your grandma situation, and then you realized that's just kind of what you like? What do you like about flipping compared to renting? And just break that down for us.
Yeah. So, I mean, with flipping, as long as you have a good product, you're going to make money a lot faster. You're going to make like a bulk of money faster as long as you can buy low. So the key is buying it at a good price and then having a good system in place to be able to then sell it quickly. So the thing I like more about flipping is you make money faster in bigger chunks, but in the long term, obviously keeping and renting, you're going to make passive income over time. So again, going back to just looking at the numbers, like how long is it going to take us to rent this out? On top of when you're renting it out, then you have costs with that. You know what I mean? You have to keep the place up. If something breaks, there's a lot of costs that go with holding as well. So it really is, for me, it's specific markets that I want to buy and hold. Whereas in like a more rural city, I'd rather probably sell just to make the fast money to then buy a place that I'd want to hold.
That makes sense. Yeah. I see a lot of people that do flips. They do similar mindset as you, because with flipping, you can make the quick money more quickly. Obviously bulk, big checks, like 30 to 40,000, sometimes even 100,000, like in your case. And then you can put that into more flips and keep on basically snowballing effect it, making it just more and more and more to build up. But then they also take that money and then allocate it to rental properties. And then they have some rental income coming in from there that can, one, passively just have passive income, or they can help supplement more flipping as well. And that's just like a good game plan, I think. And it's really well rounded because you're kind of playing more. I would say some people say it's more risky to flip, and then the rentals is a little less, it's more conservative, I would say. So you're playing both games there, which is smart, like balancing it a bit. So is home to cash now? Let's talk a little bit about that. Is that your business that does the flipping? Is that basically what you work with like another partner with? Like how many people within that business, and when did you start that?
Yeah, so Homes Cash Now is me and two partners. The actual business has been going on for about 3 years, but they've been investing prior to that. So the just real estate investors, and basically we pick a house, have a plan with what we want to do with it. We either keep it and short-term rental it, put it through a system that way, we long-term rent it, or we flip it. We buy land, we buy trailers, we buy homes. And the big thing is we buy them as is. A lot of people want to like do the renovations beforehand and fix things up. And we're just like, hey, we'll just buy it exactly how it is. You don't have to clean the stuff out, anything like that. My mom, she owns her own estate planning company. So she can come in and do like the estate sale if we need to do that. So there's just a lot of pieces that can go into it that just makes it pretty smooth for the person who is a motivated seller, right? Who's someone who has a second home, who's had a bad tenant, or someone who just has a house that just sits sitting there empty, or someone that's like close to foreclosure, they're about to foreclose on their home. It's like, why not just sell it and make something rather than just give it away? There's just a lot of situations that I find, especially with the way the economy is going in America, that people actually need to get rid of their homes now. And so it's been a good deal. Really try to do the right thing for people and make a buck whenever we can as well.
Yeah, people think that investors that are just buying stuff like cash, like as is, usually you get a decent deal for it. People think that we're just being greedy or trying to just only make money and not help anyone out. But what it is you're solving problems. Like you said, people have homes that they're getting foreclosed on. Maybe they can't afford the mortgage or taxes anymore. Maybe they have a tenant in there that they just cannot deal with anymore and they just want to be out and get rid of that whole situation. Maybe there's like a environmental or like a hazardous type problem with the home that needs to be taken care of. And you guys solve that problem by coming in and just buying as is. Like leave it whatever is there, just transfer the title to us and we'll take care of it and make it a beautiful house again, which is awesome. And it's also providing more inventory for buyers out there, first time home buyers or people that are trying to buy their second home, because you're making a good product. You're creating a good home that's going to last a while after you flip it and a happy new owner, which is awesome.
Absolutely.
Now, so you have two other partners with you, right? Now, did they always have flipping experience as well? Or were they more like into renting? How did you guys meet and how did you guys like form the business and what made you guys work together?
Yeah, so we met. We go to the same church. We have faith background, just Christian, and we had known each other for a while, just grew up around each other, and I knew what he had done. We had talked, and when I moved back to North Carolina, I was always trying to kind of keep my eye on things and see what's going on, and it was an industry I was looking to get into, so I just said, hey, want to go grab a beer or something? I had a beer, had an initial interview. We just had an open conversation, and we found out that we're more alike than we realized. You know, we both kind of been burned by past employers and had some just negative things happen in our personal careers, and we're like, hey, let's just go into this with faith and see what happens. I'm the kind of guy who I'm a workhorse. Like, I don't mind doing the $200 a day. I don't mind doing the stuff that maybe someone who's more experienced isn't going to want to do. Right. And so since I've proven myself, now I'm at this stage where we're looking to hire more people to come under me so I can be like the managing acquisitionist and kind of help manage other guys who are going to come on and do some of the legwork that I've been doing alongside with me. I also have like a coaching background where like coach the high performers and stuff like that as far as mindset or business. And so I think I have a good background to help these people hit their ground running, because I know how it was for me when I was starting. It was scary and I didn't know what to do. And there was a lot of fear involved. And then having someone that I trusted and saw the proof of concept, it really eliminated that fear. And so I know that there's a lot of guys out there, or just people in general, younger kids who are looking to get into this. And I'm like, hey, this could be a great path for you to get started. Learn under somebody, you're going to grow as a person, and it's going to be an all around good situation.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good insight and like point of view on that. Like your mentor kind of gave to you is the education for you to get going and kind of let you help set you up for success within this industry. It's always good to try to give back. So having some people come under you and you just teach them and show them the rope, it's awesome. And there's definitely a lot of people out there that are looking to get into that space and just don't know what to do. Like they read books, they do all this stuff, but they don't know where to start. And I think that's awesome that you're thinking about giving some opportunity to other people. Plus it benefits you as well, because it's going to take some of the legwork out of your hands and you'll kind of be just the final decision maker for acquisitions that they might bring you, which is great because it's going to spread your net more so you can get more deals on the table faster. That's really exciting. And only after 3 years, you guys are looking to expand, which is great. Now, speaking of like the market and stuff too, what do you see that's going on that's like challenging within the market? And where do you see the market heading, especially for flipping? A lot of people are scared to do flipping right now because they think the home's going to like crash or decline. What is your take on this whole market right now?
Yeah, I think this is like the main topic right now that a lot of people are talking about, this and like rates and stuff. But I think it's like, we'll just talk about the Charlotte market, for example. The Charlotte market is super competitive right now, especially as an investor standpoint. Like the actual city of Charlotte, this home prices are going for a lot because a lot of people from like New York or the more Northeast or maybe even California in the West are coming here and they're saying, hey man, this is an awesome house. It's half of what it costs and twice as big as what my current house is in New York. This is a great deal. But for the North Carolina person who's been here their whole lives, they're not accustomed to these prices going up. So I think if things do start to correct in the market, I think the Charlotte market is going to do okay because so many people are coming here. The demand here is so high that I think even if there is a dip in, I mean, the economy is going down every day, it seems like, but even with those things do start to self-correct, I think the Charlotte market's actually going to do okay. Whereas maybe like, for example, let's say Miami, that's really inflated prices. Yes, there's a lot of people moving there, but the amount of money that's moving there has kind of moved there. where I feel like in North Carolina and Charlotte specifically, people are still coming here consistently. And even if there's a little correction, they're still going to consistently come here. Yeah, I think I feel like every day there's something new at the market. But I mean, I'm optimistic about the Charlotte area. But as far as better deals, starting to look in a little bit of the more surrounding areas. I know, for example, like Raleigh, having Google moving there, I believe maybe an Apple headquarters or something moved there. So really big companies are moving to the Carolinas, and that's causing a ton of people to move there, obviously, because the jobs. I'm looking up in that area as well as a really hot market. What are you seeing?
Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing pretty much similar to what you're saying. I mean, I moved here from New England. I was born in Charlotte, only lived here for like 2 years, but then I worked my way up to New England because that's where my whole family was and where they basically, my parents were heading because that's where they grew up. So I lived in New England for pretty much all my life and finally decided to come back here. I've always wanted to move back to Charlotte, but everybody from New England, like so many of my friends have moved here. So many New Jersey people are moving to Charlotte. Like every other person I talk to, I'm like, where are you from? They're like, New Jersey. Like nobody from Charlotte I've met half the time is like actually from Charlotte. They're from like the Northeast.
Yep.
So I think you're right on the nail with that. A lot of people still moving here. And that's why there's so much development in Charlotte too. There's so many apartment buildings going up. It's nonstop development because they know that there's a ton of people moving here. So yeah, real estate is basically just like any business. It's all about supply and demand. When there is more demand than supply, the prices go up. And when there's more supply than demand, then the prices go down. Now, there's a huge inventory shortage across the board of pretty much all of America. And there's a lot more buyers out now trying to find homes now that they're kind of accustomed to like the high interest rates. So there's still homes getting like 50 plus offers put on it as long as it's priced correctly. Now, because of that, I think that the prices and the appreciation of properties in most areas are going to continue to just go up. So I think it's pretty safe to keep on like doing the flipping strategy. And I think it's going to be keep doing fine because of the amount of demand for the little supply that there is. Now, like you said, like in Miami or like Austin, Texas are places that have been like such overly inflated to the point that it just doesn't make sense. Like even with people moving there, those still might dwindle a little bit and they have dwindled down quite a bit price wise, but it's not like they're going to like crash astronomically because again, there's more demand than supply. And that's all that matters. It's just a whole supply and demand game. So that's what I'm seeing with the market. Even with interest rates going up, people are still out there trying to buy. And a lot of people are moving here with money, like to the Sun Belt, the Carolinas and stuff, especially from the Northeast, because they're one retiring. So they're like, we're done with New England because there's so much snow up here and there's too many people, which is true. It's pretty congested up there. Two, they like warm weather and the Carolinas have nice warm weather. Same with Florida. So they're just bringing everything down here. And that's going to create just even more demand for all this little supply that we have. So I think that the market is still going strong. I mean, it seems like it isn't. It might not in some areas of the market, like mortgages and loan wise, like it's not as strong, but that's just because there's not enough houses to buy and put loans on. I think that's really what's going on. Based on that, I think what you said, we agree on, which is good. And it's good for your scenario too, as a person that does flipping. I mean, people are scared and they're always scared of doing flips because it is risky. If you get stuck in a house that doesn't appraise correctly after, you could get stuck holding those costs. But have you ever been in a situation like that where your home didn't appraise for what you needed it to?
Yeah, I have. I've gotten in a couple of situations, even on the lender side. Being a loan officer, I've had homes trying to help people get loans and the appraisal comes back low and we're just surprised by that or whatever. And so that sucks. So yeah, but also as far as trying to get loans or buy homes myself, I've had appraisals come back low. And the thing about appraisers is it's almost like once they come out that appraisal, it's kind of set in stone. You can try to fight it and sometimes they wiggle a little, but a lot of the time it's kind of like that is what it is. So that's obviously a tricky part of it. But on top of that, I've also gotten fix and flips where we didn't do enough due diligence and the foundation wasn't ideal, or just a bigger problem with the electric or the sewer or just something, the septic. You get hit with things that you weren't fully expecting and that cuts into your overall net. And so there's always surprises in real estate with things, and if it can happen, it will. And so you got to be smart, you got to be strategic, and that's why having a team and having people to bounce the ideas off of is a good thing.
Yeah, and like speaking of due diligence, what are some things that you try to check off the box when you're looking for a home to buy? Kind of like your buy box. What are you looking for right off the bat, and what are you checking for?
Yeah, so I mean, the big things is I'm checking definitely foundation. I'm checking just how old is the home. I'm checking the roof. I'm checking the plumbing as best as I can. I want to know what is the septic, like how many people will the septic hold? For example, like I'm sure you know, but like if the septic can technically only provide for, let's say, 6 people, and you add a fourth bedroom, even if that's a technical legal fourth bedroom, if the septic only holds up to 6 people, you can't sell that home as a 4 bedroom house. So there's just like things like that that you really need to know. And sometimes you're going to learn the hard way, or sometimes you got to find a mentor to kind of show you, hey, don't do that. It looks shiny, but don't do that. Yeah, I think that's something I'm definitely trying to eliminate. Is I'm trying to learn without making the huge mistake of like buying something and learn the hard way. I'm trying to learn through other people's experiences.
Yeah, because the worst thing is to buy a home, be locked into it, and then all of a sudden, like the first week, you're like, "Oh snap! I didn't see
Yeah.
that. I didn't see that like $10,000 to $20,000 extra thing. Now I got to put that into my numbers. That doesn't look too good anymore."
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, it is really important to do a lot of due diligence up front, and make sure that your numbers are right and you kind of double check everything that you possibly can.
Yeah.
And I always run my numbers pretty conservatively. Do you usually run your numbers very conservatively off the bat, and then you have like I usually do conservative numbers, and then I do my like if everything goes perfect, these are the numbers, and then
Absolutely.
because it gets you excited for the everything goes perfect, you're like hell yeah, but then the conservative, you're like I can still walk away, and then it's probably going to be somewhere in the middle, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think doing the conservative approach first is the way to go, because you don't want to, I mean, like I said, if it can go wrong, it will sometimes. And so it's like you really want to have some wiggle room, right? Because the point of investing is at the end of the day, it's to help people, but it's also to make money. You don't want to buy a house and then sell it for less. Like that's just not, no one would try to do that, which kind of leads me to something I was thinking about. I actually had someone ask me today, like, hey, Will, I've actually heard this a bunch lately, and they're asking like, how do I get started? I don't know if you hear this often or not, but they're like, what is like the first step? How did you buy your first home? Like even you asked me this earlier. And I think something that I got advice for when I was very first starting that I could share with people is like, you got to remove yourself from the situation. When you remove yourself from the situation, like, hey, I need to buy a home, but I don't know if I have enough money. You have all that emotion tied into it.
Yep.
So by removing yourself from the situation, you remove that emotion. In real estate, you don't want to be emotionally tied to a home, because then that's where you start making bad decisions. Like, oh, I love where it's located, but the ROI on this home isn't good. So I think removing yourself from the situation really allows you to think clear-minded. And then you want to find a lender who's going to give you the financing, how much you can afford, right? I think another big mistake is people go out looking for homes and they talk to realtors, but they don't do the due diligence of how much they can afford. So they do a bunch of work. The realtor's doing all this stuff, but they're not even pre-approved yet. So you want to find the lender, you want to get that good. Then you want to find the lender first, then you want to find the realtor, go find the home, and then that'll be a smooth process. So I think a lot of people don't plan enough. Like they're like, hey, I want to buy a home, and then they call a realtor tomorrow. It's like, I think the better idea is probably set up a plan of what your goal is, right? Like if you know what you want, then you can find it. If you're just like, hey, I'm going to go look for a home, that's probably not the best approach. Do you have any thoughts to that? Or
No, yeah, I mean, I can't tell you how many realtors that have like reached out to me as a loan officer, like here's somebody that needs a lender, because usually when you go to a realtor first anyway, they're immediately going to say like, oh, you're pre-approved, like how much can you afford? And if you go to them and you're like, I don't know, or I'm probably this or this, and they're like, can I see the letter? And you don't have a letter, they're going to send you to a lender immediately. I do agree, it should be plan, like area, location, kind of what you're looking for, like how big is the house, what area you want to be in, kind of have a little buy box for that. And then go to a lender and be like, hey, what can I get pre-approved for? And a pre-approval basically looks at your finances and lets you know how much you can afford based on like your current monthly income and debt and credit, all your financials looked at. And then once you get that letter, which basically says, yes, you could buy a house for like $500,000 with this loan, then you would go to the realtor and be like, hey, I got this fancy little letter. And realtors are like, sweet, let's go make offers. Because they don't want to talk to you unless you have that letter, because you used to be able to make offers without a pre-approval, but those times are kind of gone. You can kind of do them like if you know the person now, or like if you get the seller like that's not really trying to sell, but like they'll entertain like a verbal offer. But now most sellers period want to see a pre-approval, or at least a pre-qualification, but pre-approvals are much better because that means the underwriter actually looked over it and confirmed it. But yeah, that's a perfect recommendation for people looking for their first home, is definitely go that route. So you want to come up with a little plan, lender, realtor, and then you start making offers. You got to get a good team too. You want a good realtor and you want a good lender that actually know what they're doing. And if you're looking to invest, you want a realtor and a loan officer that actually invests so they can understand what you're doing. If you're looking for just your first home, period, then just try to get a competent loan officer and a competent realtor that can actually answer your questions and understand the market and the business for sure.
No, I was gonna say I think getting a referral from someone who's worked with them in the past is probably a good move. If someone has said, "Hey, I worked with this guy, he did a good job," that's a safer bet than like, "Hey, I'm just gonna go on Zillow and just call the first chick I see." Sometimes it's good to get a referral from someone in anything you're doing. That'll alleviate a lot of that worry. Like, are they good? Like, hopefully the person who's telling you this you trust, and then they tell you, and it's like, okay, this is a good deal.
Yeah, and I can tell you, bringing up that Zillow thing's funny. Like, I think every single Zillow realtor that I've worked with, from like a buyer that came to me after going to Zillow realtor, and I had to work with a Zillow realtor, it was a terrible experience. I had to do their job for them, basically. So you can't just use any realtor. You want to ask people who they use. There's a lot of good realtors out there, but there are more bad realtors. Same with loan officers. There's a lot of good loan officers out there, but there's more bad ones.
Yep.
And you got to really find the ones that are great and perform well. You can't just pick any, because they're not all the same. They'll work differently. They understand the laws differently. Loan officers, some really creativity, like have a lot of creativity and can get you like down payment assistance, different loans, combine different options together. You want those loan officers. You don't want the one that's just going to give you like a standard, like, here's a conventional loan. I don't know. Let's just do 5% down, like take it or leave it. Like, you want one that's trying to help you like get the best option. And yeah, the best way to do that is definitely from word of mouth and from just knowing people that have worked with them before. Zillow and like realtor.com, like there's a reason there's people on there paying for those leads, because they don't get a lot of word of mouth leads. So they're trying to find other people throughout Zillow and realtor. But then again, there are very good loan officers and realtors on Zillow too, but it's hard to come by because there's so many not so great ones on there too.
Yeah, I totally agree, man. It's definitely a thing. I got a question. I'm curious for you. Like, where do you think like rates are going? Like, what I'm sure you're having the conversation a lot, but like, what are your thoughts on like just like the overall rate market?
Yeah, I mean, rates are obviously high compared to where they were during COVID, and people are like freaking out about that. Like, anytime I tell them the current rate, they're like, what? But I mean, if you look back at time in history, like where they are now is actually still like average lower than they have been throughout the past like 50 years. Then again, you take like how much home prices are now compared with the rates, like it's not the same. But I would say a healthy market is like around a 4 to 5% interest rate. I think that's pretty healthy for where the market prices are right now. Now, I think that they are going to continue to just keep going like up and down between the 6 and 7s until inflation gets under control like completely. So it's really up to our administration to try to crack down on that, which they're not doing a good job at all. So I don't think it's going to change for a while. I think it's going to take about a year to start trending more down. I think where we're at right now, it's going to kind of stay there for probably into like early next year, I would think. I don't have a crystal ball, but just based on how the administration is going and how they are just not performing well with any money at all, it just seems like that's kind of the area it's heading.
You hit the nail on the head right there. It's wild to me. It's like, oh, Joe Biden and his administration, and I'm not getting political at all. I don't care either way, but it's like the administration right now says if you have a lower credit score, you'll have a higher, So
they passed like new LLPAs, which is like fees for loans. And basically, they're punishing people that have better credit scores. So people that have better credit scores are paying like hundreds of thousands more dollars in fees compared to someone that has a low credit score. So if I'm going to get a loan with like a 620 credit score and I'm putting down like 5%, I'm going to pay less fees and less cost than someone that's going there with like a 780, 800 credit score putting down like 20%, which makes absolutely no sense. And
yeah, it's crazy. It's like Joe Biden and his administration is saying that if you have a lower credit score, you're going to have a lower rate. And it's like, at the end of the day, though, you got to realize this is coming from media. And media's job is to give you clickbait, right? Yep. So this is clickbait. This is just trying to get us talking about this. And that's what we're doing. That's what everyone's talking about. Like, oh, Joe Biden's saying that if I have a low credit score, I'm going to have a lower rate. And it's like, at the end of the day, that's not how it works. If you have a higher credit, the goal is to have the highest credit score possible. So I think some people are definitely getting misconstrued about this, but at the end of the day, it's just clickbait. They're just trying to get you talking about this. They want you to just focus on this rather than the bigger issue, which is like we're talking about inflation and all these things. Mortgage companies understand this and already have this locked into the rates. Like your rate's not going to be lower because you have a low credit score. That's just a way for them to get your attention and have you freaking out and focus on this rather than going out and making money and doing what you should be doing. So you can't listen to the media which if you're still listening to the media, I'm not sure what's going on.
Yeah, you need to really cross-reference a lot of media nowadays. Like, it's blatantly obvious that they have agendas that they keep to on both sides of all spectrums. So you just got to research yourself, read through a couple things. Don't just get spoon-fed stuff, because if you get spoon-fed stuff, easy news and information, it's probably wrong. Just like in life, anything that's easy usually doesn't last or isn't correct. You gotta go for the hard stuff, because it'll last and it's probably the right way to do stuff. But yeah, and like also like loan officers are finding ways to get around that whole thing anyway. Like, you could buy a home with 5% down, avoid those fees because you only pay them like, I guess, around like 10 to 20% down, the more percent you put down. And then the second you close on a loan and avoid those fees, you just recast your loan. So then that means you just put a big payment down and then recast your loan, which essentially makes it like you closed with 20% down, but you just paid the extra 15% after you closed, which is just like, it's just a waste of time. It was like a waste of like a rule. It's just causing more things for people to talk about, and just getting people on the wrong track when they should be thinking about, like you said, making more money, making themselves better, and providing more to society to hopefully continue making the United States just more strong, because we're definitely not that strong right now, for sure, because of the inflation and stuff. But yeah, awesome. So going over your current career of like 3 years of doing this, and based on like you having the due diligence experience, doing a couple flips, been working with acquisitions, been working like within the loan industry, what is the single most important lesson that you can give to someone that is starting off, or that is in the middle of a flip or something like that, or just starting to flip? What's the one lesson that pops into your head, other than find the correct lender, realtor, or whatever? Give us like a little inside scoop on something that you might have ran into and you're like, oh snap, I got to tell someone about this.
Yeah, man, that's a really great question. I think one of the biggest things when you're doing something is you got to find something that you love. And if you're working in an industry that you don't love, find the thing that you love and try to do that within that industry. So for me, I love coaching, right? So within the investing industry, I'm finding ways to still coach people and to have it help my business. I think right now, a lot of people are doing things maybe that they don't necessarily love. And when times are tough, you're going to quit if you don't love it. So I think if you can find something that you truly are passionate about, when the times are tough, when things are when shit hits the fan, you're going to push through that, because you're going to have that drive in that no matter what happens, I'm going to still keep going. So I think that for someone younger, maybe getting started, really take an evaluation of like, what are my best skills? What are my best talents? What would I do if it was for free? What would I do if I wasn't really making money? I think a lot of people are just in it for the money, and that's good. But at the same time, you got to kind of do what you love, because when you look at your life, right, you're pretty much working majority of your day from mid 20s to mid 60s. That's a lot of your life. And if you're not doing something you love, you're not going to be that happy of a person. So if you can't change the industry you're in to do what you love, find what you love and do that in that industry. That would be my advice to someone who's listening.
Yeah, I love that advice. And you can kind of pair that with when you're young, you can take a lot of chances and really kind of hop around and figure out what you do love.
Exactly.
You don't got to stick to like one thing. You don't have to like go get that job that everybody's talking about or that industry everybody's talking about. Like, hop around, try to find what you like and enjoy, and just get really good at it. Because if you love it and you're good at it, you'll find a way to make money doing it. And it won't even feel like you won't even care about the money at that point, because it'll just flow and you'll just be having a great time, which is the point of life. You don't want to get stuck doing something that you don't want to do for those 40 years or whatever. Get stuck in that 9-to-5 kind of jail. That's what we all try to get out of. And that's why I started investing in real estate. And I'm sure that's why you did too, Will, because it's so much more freedom and fun. And you can really incorporate a lot of stuff that you love within it, like you with coaching. Speaking of coaching too, what are some like references or like books or like podcasts or something that you can recommend to people to go learn? And what have you used to basically learn and help broaden your mind within real estate that you can just recommend for the audience?
Yeah. So, I mean, the biggest podcast I think that probably most people will listen to is Bigger Pockets. I mean, I think that's kind of where you pretty much start out, is listening to that. So I'd recommend that. It's great advice. Definitely take what they say with a grain of salt. You got to realize that where you are isn't exactly where the person you're listening to is. So you got to hear what they're saying and make your own conclusion of where you are in life before you just jump in and buy a quadplex and don't know how to do that. You know what I mean? You want to probably start small and then grow out and be risky, but you don't want to go underwater because of a deal you're trying to do to make money. So I'd say start a little bit smaller and get that confidence, because while you're doing that, you're learning, you're growing, you're building your team, you're building your confidence. And on top of that, I think a lot of it, going back to the confidence side, is learning about like personal development. That's what I've spent like a lot of my time. Guys I'd recommend who are my mentors is Lewis Howes. He has the podcast, The School of Greatness. Ed Milet, he has the podcast, Ed Milet Show. Those are two great guys that teach you a lot. Actually, Ed Milet just interviewed the biggest realtor like that there is. He's a guy in Beverly Hills. I forget his name right now, but he just interviewed him and he gave some great strategies as to when you're a realtor, what to do and how to read the room. I think that's a really big thing in investing, for example. Read the room. When you're in the house, feel the house. Like when you're talking to the person on the phone, think if they're really trying to sell this home, like why? If they're trying to sell, like my guy, really trying to sell his home and his thing is, oh, I want to sell it under value because I don't want to pay the income tax on it. Is it that? Or do you have an inch of mold in your basement? You know what I mean? Like what is the real thing going on here? So try to read the room and use your gut instinct to be like, does something feel wrong here? Press on to that. That's why you need to work on your confidence, because the more confident you are, the better you're going to be able to control that sale, that situation. And on the vice versa, you're not going to get taken advantage of when someone's trying to buy your home for maybe not a good deal. So I think overall, working on your confidence and reading books like Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I mean, I could go through millions of personal development books, but just work on your mind. At the end of the day, being more confident is a skill that will correlate to anything you do. So I think that's really where you should probably start.
Yeah, I see a lot on like Facebook groups too, because I don't know if you're a part of like a lot of Facebook groups, but Facebook like real estate investing groups. And people always ask like, hey, I got like $5,000 to $10,000. How do I get into real estate investing? And pretty much everybody that comments on that says, take that money and invest in yourself first. Like invest in education, invest in fixing, like getting some self-help books, like just start building yourself up, because you're the base of like everything you're going to do in life is yourself. So if you're not working on yourself constantly and building yourself to be a better person, everything else after, your work, your job, family, money, finances, whatever, is going to fail. You're the base. So I think that's a great point that you brought up, Will. And a lot of people need to really acknowledge that and know that life is long. People say life is short, which it is. Life does fly by, but you do have a lot of time. And real estate is a long-term game for the investing portion of it. Now, if you just hop right in and you fail, then you're probably not going to want to do real estate investing anymore, especially if you fail really big, because you're going to be like, oh my God, that was awful. But if you take like the first year to just learn, be patient, build yourself up, gain some confidence, and then kind of hop in there with a small deal, like you said, and then maybe do a little bigger deal the next time and then bigger the next time and start snowballing affecting it, domino affecting it, and be patient and taking calculated risks, you're going to perform and do a lot better than someone that just hops right in without starting off with building themselves. And I can tell you that's the first thing that I did. I don't know. I read way too many real estate books. I probably read too many, and I read too many self-help books, and I still read some self-help books now. Podcasts too, great podcasts to listen to. Just a lot of self-help podcasts too will get your mind in the right place to start this journey. But that's awesome. And it's good to hear that coming from like with a coaching background, because like Will obviously knows what he's doing, and as like a kind of a coach mentor, he's talking about building yourself first, and that is definitely something that everybody should think about doing rather than hopping right into real estate. And the one thing that is weird about real estate too, especially all these podcasts that are coming up and all these like videos and YouTube videos, Instagram videos, people think that they like promote it as like a get rich quick type thing, like, oh, I bought like a property, now I have a Lambo. Like that's not how it works. Like, do you see a lot of that, Will, as well?
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, and that's the thing, is that's the unfortunate thing about social media, is you just see the end result. You just see the guy who worked for 40 years and now you see him in his mansion, like flying on his jet or going on his yacht. And it's like, but you didn't see the process of how he got there. You didn't see the consistent 18-hour days of him grinding and all of these things he did to get him there. So I think what I try to do, what I think is a good method, is see that person on Instagram that you respect and say, hey, I want to be there. And then reverse engineer how to get there. Like, okay, I want to be there. I want to be on my yacht in Belize. Okay, cool. If I want to be there, what steps do I need to do to get there, and do it in a reverse order? Because saying like, if you're trying to run a marathon, you're not going to run a marathon your first day. You're going to start with the first mile, the second mile. And so by reverse engineering your goal or where you want to get, it actually breaks it down into bite-sized pieces to where it's not as big of a deal. Because now instead of going from where I am now to being on my jet, it's like, okay, I got to go from where I am now to buying my first duplex, to then buying my first quadplex. And so like you can really do it in bite-sized pieces, just like 1 mile today. Tomorrow we're going to run 2 miles. On Friday we're running 4 miles. And it's like, that doesn't seem as daunting than, hey, we're running 26 miles today. I hope you're ready. Like, wait, I'm wearing flip-flops. It's like, it's not going to happen. So I think that's the thing with especially millennials. We don't have very much patience, and we want it now because we see it on social media, and half the stuff we see is lies. So it's like, be more patient and really like look at yourself rather than compare to these big, huge people who are probably lying about what they're doing. They're renting this stuff and saying, oh, it's mine. And it's like, that's not going to get you to a successful place. And it's going to affect your mental health dramatically. And that's why focusing on the internal foundation has got to be the starting point.
Yeah. What's that? There's a quote by, I think, Jordan Peterson. Probably a lot of people have said this, but it's like, focus on who you were yesterday and trying to get like better than that person. Like, Like, stop focusing on other people. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to other people, like on social media and stuff. I think social media might be one of the biggest causes of like depression, anxiety, all that stuff, impatience, because people just click on like Instagram page and they're like, oh, this guy has $1 million going up in the air with like a Lambo behind him. And he says that he invests in real estate and did it like within 3 years. It's like, okay, like either he's lying about that or he's like the 1% that successfully maybe did that, but you don't know his backstory. Maybe it took him 10 years and he's just saying 3. And now he's just promoting it and showing it. Like, just focus on yourself, focus on making yourself better and the people around you. And if you keep on being resilient, dedicated, and just trying to better yourself every single day, I mean, you can get to that point as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think another huge thing is focus a lot on who you surround yourself with. It's like, if you look at the 5 people you're around the most, that's probably the average of their income is going to be your income. So really take a real deep look at like who you're surrounding yourself with, and what content are you taking in, what books are you reading, what information is coming in, because that you can control. You can control what you're listening to. You can control, for the most part, who you spend your time with. And so like, those are things that will make a dramatic difference in your life. You know, they say you want to see your future, look at your friends. And I take that very seriously. And that's, I think, what has gotten me some success is my friends are doing well. That in return is going to make me want to do well. And if my friend has something that I want, I'm not jealous of my friend and like, I'm not mad at him for having that. I clap for him. I'm saying, that's awesome you have that. Now I need to go get that too.
Yeah.
Not like, oh, screw you, I hope he wrecks it. It's like, no, like, that's awesome he has that. That gives me motivation to, it's possible. He's my friend. I know this person. He did it. I can do it too. So that hopefully use those people in your life as motivation, not as like jealousy.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and it's good to have those friends too that are succeeding, because you can always go to them and ask them like how they did it. It's like another mentor. And it's all about just helping each other get to the next level in life. And if you have friends that are successful, they're going to want to help you get successful too, as long as you want to try. If you're just jealous and you're like resenting them, then they're not going to want to help you. And they'll probably end up not being your friend anymore, because nobody wants that negativity around.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's awesome. So don't want to keep you on here too long. So I just want to start wrapping it up with a final question. Well, not a final question, but it's just a little more about yourself. Is there like anything else you'd like to tell the audience, social media handles of where to contact you, any meetups or events that you run, links to your business, how to just learn more about you? If you want to just go through that and just let people know where to reach you, that'd be great.
Yeah. So as far as career goes, I'm a loan officer for First Community Mortgage, a head acquisitionist for Homes to Cash Now. And you can connect with me on just Will Nork on Instagram. I have Facebook, but really Instagram would probably be the best way to contact me. It's just Will Nork, that's Nork, and just reach out to me, shoot me a DM. On there has links to my coaching website, to the loan officer stuff. You can apply there, all kinds of stuff. And as I said, I am looking for 2 hungry, just younger people who are looking to get into the real estate business and get their feet wet and really have a positive experience. You said a lot of people come in and maybe have a negative first experience, and that pushes them out. And here, it's not going to be easy, but it's definitely going to be a safe, positive route. So looking for 2 of those people who want to just come on in and really start to grow the really good thing that's going. Other than that, I just want to spread positivity. I think you were mentioning about how America's just hurting right now and the mental health issues and all of that. Like, you really just got to focus on yourself. If every American focused on themselves and bettered themselves, America would be better. It's like, turn the news off, hit the gym, like look internal instead of trying to blame other people of why you're not doing well or whatever. I think a lot of us need to do a lot more looking inward instead of all this outward looking. And if we did that, we'd be a lot happier. I want to just, again, follow me on social media, reach out to me, shoot me a DM. I respond to everybody. I just love people, and I want to see people do well and be happy. And I feel like there's not a lot of happy people these days, and that's not cool. So any way I can help them, I'd love to, but I got to know you in order to do that.
Yeah, you hit something good there. I mean, victim mentality will get you nowhere. I've always said that, and that's one of my biggest pet peeves is someone with a victim mentality. You almost want to rather have like over accountability for everything, even things that aren't in your control. If you take accountability for it, if you just practice taking accountability for literally everything, you'll just feel better in life because you feel like you're in control and you're learning and you can change anything that you put your mind to, which you can. But if you point the finger at everything and say it's their fault this is happening to me, then that doesn't fix anything. It just makes you look weak and it's not going to help your mind. It's basically telling your brain that you can't go anywhere.
Exactly.
Which once you train your brain to do that, just like a muscle, it's going to think like that. And it's really hard to get out of that mindset. But you can get out of it. You just got to start working on yourself. Hit the gym. Start educating yourself. Start moving. Start looking forward. Ignore all the media. Ignore all the negativity and just spread positivity. I think that's the way life should be anyway.
100%, dude.
But again, thank you for coming on, Will. I appreciate you taking the time and you gave a lot of information, which is awesome. Yeah, just looking forward to hearing about your journey and hopefully you can come on later on and we can see where you're at then.
Yeah, Windows, it was great meeting you and talking with you and looking forward to seeing you at the next meetup.
Absolutely. Hopefully. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well. Have a good one.
Yeah, you too. See ya.